Hello, folks. Welcome to our brand new show called the Rift Repair Shop. In this show, I'm joined by Razvan, as we're going to go through tape to help whoever we're going to go over tape for improve. Focusing first up on NA, where we're going to go through the 5 major roles in a style that an LTA North org would do so in the offseason by taking tape, grading players in certain categories 1 through 10, and going through there. So excited to be joined by Razvan for this. Razvan, how you doing?
Hello there, I'm Razvan. I'm doing well. I'm excited to do what I came originally in LCS for, and that's help NA improve as a region, right? Now I'm outside of it, so I can do it to multiple teams rather than just one, as it was in the past. So I'm really looking forward to this and the many memes you will make about my name in this show.
Yes, of course, the name was completely inspired by the fact that it's Razvan and nothing else to do with it. That being said, I think it's time that we dive into what's up first, which is the player transfer market. See all the changes that were made top down for LTA North to start off.
Yes, so over here we are looking at how the teams made the changes, right? And the idea of this thing will be to also have our perspectives at the end to see if the teams made improvements, side grades, or straight up downgrades, and potentially look into the out of the game aspects that the players bring to their teams, and explore it from an educated guess perspective about how teams generally roster build and how they want to achieve success or what is success for a certain team.
All right, folks, for today's episode, we're going to be going through top lane and all of the top laners that will be competing in LTA North for Split 1. In order to rate these players, we have selected 10 categories which are weighted differently per role, depending on what kind of role you have. Weights might be different in order to get to an overall score that we're going to put in the same sheet for everyone. Razvan, what went into the process of choosing some of these categories and how we ended up with these?
Okay, so these categories, technical, tactical, and mental, are the things that LCS organizations will look for in players. Generally, the attributes that we selected, they're broken down into more subcategories. We try to keep it quite simple over here, because, for example, you would analyze the fog usage and the vision of a player in 2 different categories, right? Engage angles versus threat analysis, because they're different. But for the sake of timekeeping and the content creation side, we managed to put them together. We don't have access to all the intangible aspects that an LCS team usually has by requesting the VODs of players, so we will use YouTube for VODs. That will also make it easier for us to present the findings to you guys. And that's more or less it. I'm really looking forward to having a decent idea about how the teams are going to perform in LTA North.
For each player, Razvan and I each selected 4 VODs. We tried to vary them a little bit. I tried to split up wins and losses. I made sure that every game was on a different champion for the most part. Razvan, did anything go into the VODs that you selected?
Generally, I looked for VODs that are quite compact and they're quite different, so I can look at multiple aspects of their gameplay. Compared to when I was scouting for LCS, this was a bit shorter, because generally in LCS we would look at least 8 VODs of a player before taking him into the next stage where we look at more, right? The difference that I kind of dislike is that now we do it off YouTube, because we don't have access to the ROFL files and POV files of the players. But I think the quality of the product will still be decent.
We don't get comms, but for the intangibles, we just tried to rate it into the tape, and everyone has responsibility for their play, whether it's good or bad. So obviously, some info missing, but still tried to honor the tape and score it that way. That being said, let's dive into our first player. As first up, 100 Thieves Sniper.
Okay, so the first player on our list is 100 Sniper, one of the rookies with a lot of potential coming into LTAN, previously the LCS. We have high hopes for him. He's still quite a young player. It's his first full year in LTAN, if I'm not right. This one will be his, if I'm right.
Yeah,
this one will be his second, right?
Sophomore year coming up, yeah.
Yeah. So he should already have some of the basics drilled in him. And his mechanics should let him shine. And the first clip I want to show you guys is related to his overall team fighting as a player against PSG at Worlds. So the quality of the game is quite high. The first thing we have to notice is that he's in base, he's using the home guards, not the home guards, the teleport speed boost to get a position. His team is coming in, Ayla is on the same page, and they're looking to engage on this timer. This is generally not a great timer, but they're making it work with his mechanics and overall usage of the Aatrox champion. Over here, his spacing is quite good, and he's showing us why he deserves his position in LCS. This is the kind of thing you would want your rookie player to do on the world stage, and this is what makes him valuable, right? However, the problem we have with rookie players at times is that their concentration is lacking, right?
Yeah,
let me find it.
Even in that game, because I went through that game as well, like he got solo killed and had kind of a rough lane phase, so it is good that he was able to bounce back. That game against PSG did end up being a loss, and there was another Aatrox team fight in there that didn't exactly go his way. But yeah, so even like inside the same game, we do see some like good and bad, right?
Yeah. As for the thing about the concentration I wanted to talk about, this one will be in the game against TL in week 9, day 2 of LCS, right?
Mm-hmm.
So over here, what we can observe is that he's on a weak side timer. His mid laner is recalling, right? So that means his team is able to retake one side of the map, right? His team already chose to retake the top side of the map in this example. He's pushing that wave bot lane, right? The problem that we have is that being a rookie, he doesn't know he will get tempo trapped in this situation. So this potential death might be the lose con for his team, right? If he doesn't die here, there's still potential to maybe look to scale further and let the Smolder play into the game.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see what happens. He walks in, if you check the map, and he gets tempo trapped by Core J and APA, who do an extremely good job over here, right? Looking at it again, Smolder is in base, MF is dealing with a wave mid lane.
Yeah, just walk around.
The two members are in topside jungle trying to retake.
Yeah, he's gonna
On this
walk
timer,
around.
you have to walk around and play as safe as possible because you cannot afford to die 30 minutes into the game with both objectives up, right?
Yeah, he also
in
has
a situation where he's alive, there would be a potential cross-map play for his team, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we skip to it, it's kind of hard for them to cross-map play, and TL will be able to potentially be on time for both objectives, or at least get position to fight them on the exit path, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Cubby? What are your impressions about Sniper as a player?
Going through some of the tape of Sniper, for me, he still comes off as really raw, where he will make really highlight plays. This is actually one moment that I do want to credit Sniper for. They dropped this game, and he had a poor moment earlier on, but this was a really nice roam. He's down to Thanatos in this VOD. See if we can find his scoreboard. Yeah, so you can see he's 0-1. Thanatos is pretty much even in XP, and this is the part of the matchup where Nars starts to slingshot back a bit. Sniper gets a wave in after C9's bot lane, where they were spotted bot and a skirmish, so Berserker's low, and he uses this timer to actually go, he walks mid and finds a kill on Berserker, which is quite nice. These are some really good things we see out of Sniper. He does drop the top lane for this, but I thought that they could have snowballed this in a little bit more. He's able to at least stay mid, and Tomo cuts off the top wave. This is a really nice play from Sniper in this game. Definitely something that did impress me. We'll say, though, just to go off of the consistency thing, too, earlier on in this game, just clicking back through the VOD, Sniper is going to get caught out in one shot around the grubs, and a moment that wasn't very appealing. Thanatos is about to go Mega, and I don't think he recognizes the threat very well or uses his abilities well. He's going to use the Empowered Stun onto the Leona, who then aftershocks and cannot die, where I think that he should be looking to use his empowered abilities to probably double dash and get an armor reduction on everyone, or at least heal, as he gets one shot and can't really do anything here, and just stunning Leona is just wrong in this moment. And And any thoughts or anything you want to add?
No, not much. Going back on my end of the place,
Mhm.
what I would like to add is the fact that he was impressive from me from one aspect, which is that as a young player, generally these players are not very good at the map play and the fog usage / vision control when it comes to top lane, especially because it's one of the harder ones to do, right?
Mhm.
So in this video, what we see is that Sniper realizes his team is down tempo over here. Generally, in a down tempo situation, you cannot approach 1-3-1 in objectives because you will need to retake, right?
Mhm.
A rookie top laner, I would expect him to push this wave in and look to TP. He actually realizes he cannot do that and that this vision is very, very important for this fight. So what he does is he walks mid lane and he's the one that face checks for his team because Nautilus is not enough over here with how much advantage assassins and peak potential from these two champions they have, right? As well as LeBlanc. So he's here, he's fighting the vision with his team, right? It doesn't matter if they win or lose it. It's a very, very good habit that you generally don't see in rookies. So he deserves some claps for this or applause, right?
Yeah.
The second one, it's very similar on the same topic. Over here, he's using the fog of war in order to get behind the enemy team. He's not just beelining there, and he's waiting there for a moment, right? If we look at this fight over here, this fight should be won for 100 tips against FlyQuest, right? With his position, the overall engage from his teammates, this fight looks quite good in the beginning, right? We have a bit of a problem that the team is not on the same page and some want to fight over here, others want to recall, which makes it be a desync, but it's generally the type of thing I want to see from my top laners. Like use Fog of War, take the longer path to get into a decisive position, right? Be
Yeah.
patient and flank. If we watch the best teams in the world, if the top laner is on a bruiser, 90% of the time he's on a flank, right? Not just ramming it down mid lane like we love to do it in our region.
Yeah. Something else I want to praise about Sniper, like last thing, I actually think he fights decently well for being young. This fight on my screen, I really liked how he approached this one. I think that this is a late game fight where 100 Thieves, they're down a little bit in gold. It is really late. As Cassante, if you are not in your W at this point of the game, you're going to take a lot of damage. I think that Sniper actually does a really good job of respecting that, because there are a couple times during this fight where he could have gotten into the back line. Like here, we can actually, we could have ulted through Rel to try and get to Tristana. Not going to do that. Tristana's done. He does posture, but instead he decides to cut off Lions after he uses his W and ults early, which keeps him on the right side of the fight. And especially with his team, we're playing Hui Jin into Draven Tristana, and they're stuck on Baron. I think that by not overcommitting, he's actually playing towards his win cons on the team here rather well. So we do see some moments like this of Sniper just playing intelligently. Really nice Q3 here to get Summon off his backline. Again, I think he's just picking the right sides of the fight in this scenario from the same VOD later on. So it's really good to see. We definitely see other moments like that too. As game from the Summer Split against FlyQuest. Baron's taken by 100 Thieves. Sniper's going to sidestep a Bard Q and then pick a spot just to make sure that Bwipo falls. Does a nice job of popping Counter-Strike. This is whatever. What's really nice is that he spots Quad on the ward looking for an angle. As FlyQuest, they're going to get outscaled in this game, so they're looking to push post-Baron. Nice snipe, but still manages to find Quad. Does a good job spacing until he gets his Counter-Strike and Q back up and goes in. I thought Sniper's Jack's actually really good this year, so good to see him performing on a champ like this. Just a really well-played fight and showing some patience as Rook, which we'll love to see.
To finish off with Sniper, I really want to pinpoint something that he has to work on, and potentially this thing will just happen naturally, which is the fact that once he gets going and he no longer has performance anxiety, on my screen right now, we will have a dive that he's trying to perform with his team.
Mm-hmm.
Over here, he's fighting against Impact, who is one of the best top laners in the world ahead of time. which is not bad per se, right? Execution could be better. However, over here, right, we are in a situation where we have time on our side. This cooldown is about to go off. His team is very likely not here. We can see Talia is not helping him on the map. They don't have information about Rel, but still, they're on a timer. However, you cannot play this as aggressively as he did, because if you give a top laner that's weak-sided the opportunity to make a play like this, it's potentially going to be one of the loose cons that you will have in your games, right? So that's one of the things that I really hope he will overcome, and he will become one of the best top laners in LTAN.
Yeah.
And that's my conclusion about Sniper. What about you, Cubby? Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, one other thing about Sniper, diving into some of the scores that we gave him as a top laner. Overall, and that's really highly in terms of mechanics and ability usage. Also, team fight, not bad for Sniper, where we want to see him work or show growth for the upcoming year. Didn't do the best job in concentration or engage angles or threat analysis. And also, I think that Sniper thinks that he lanes better than he actually does. Overall, his laning is a little bit flippy. You see some Jekyll and Hyde games for him based on that, but would love to see some consistency of that form of his play, because a lot of the other parts of his play are actually pretty good for a first year especially. So I would love to see Sniper level up in that category. All right, folks, next up, C9 Thanatos. Now, when it comes to Thanatos, some moments where mechanically was really sound. Overall, though, a lot of moments in the split where Thanatos had either really good or bad plays within the same game, or just had games where there was high variance to play. Diving in, do want to hop into one of the good moments that we had from Thanatos, as he is Renekton. We can see here, actually finds a really nice pocket of vision using control wards from C9. Was able to sneak in here pretty much around TL, stays hidden, and does a really nice job at doing his job in this fight. You can see Core JJ is going to go in. Thanatos gets a very fed impact in this game. Really helps peel for his backline. And really like the E angle too. Doesn't go directly into TL. Keeps himself at bay. Does a nice job of doing his job in this fight. Even posturing to look for more afterwards, which pays off big. Nice flash W. Didn't quite save his AD, but still well played from Thanatos. That said, though, you can see some of the Jekyll of Hyde later on in this game. Going to pull up another clip. What happens with Thanatos here? Well, C9 just won a little bit of a fight, skirmish. Get a trade. A little 2-for-1 action. Going to retreat to the Baron. So Thanatos holding vision, or holding the line, I should say. We'll say, though, dropping the bush, that does reveal where Renekton is at. Thanatos not really noticing it. APA walks in, gets a really big chunk off on him. That's pretty detrimental. And then we give away into the pit, which would have happened either way. That said, does get the steal off, which Thanatos somewhat helped enable. I think he was looking to stop from getting in there, so we'll give him, I guess, some consolation points for that. Either way, not good.
It's kind of funny to me because, I've coached JoJo for years, and these young players, they always either don't know or just forget what certain abilities do. So it's funny to see him getting spotted by Ivern over there.
I have another clip of Thanatos here. Again, Jekyll and Hyde in the same game. Do see a lot of Cassante from him this split. I will say that Thanatos overall, I feel like needs to widen his champion pool for the next one as we roll this one out. Thanatos does a really nice job in this team fight. That Eda Blabber to help peel. That helps actually get him to the Azir. And then instantly goes to peel his backline. Really good reactions and mechanics from Thanatos to play this one out. But as we speed through it, we're going to go to the Baron. That fight quest is starting. And what do we do as Thanatos? Well, we get stuck in the choke and waste our W on nothing. So our Unstoppable is now gone. We go Unstoppable towards Masu, which we are not able to reach him for. That really puts us in a tough spot for Baron. What happens after that? Knock up from Ivern, melted by the Azir, and the one winning play that C9 found in this game instantly turned as inspired, gets another Ivern Baron steal, and C9 gets wiped. I think Thanatos, he should be in that choke. Just burning the W when he did was extremely detrimental, especially taking that into the team instead of away. Could have played back to his team. So Thanatos definitely overplaying his hand in this clip. And yeah, I mean, a lot of moments where we see good or bad fights from him are just moments where he's good in the map or gets caught out in the map, Razvan.
Yeah, I agree. This is also a VOD that I've watched myself, and I was very, very impressed with how he played the initial team fight
Yeah.
because he did his job well. In the second one with the Nashor, his idea was good, but I think the communication in the comms was a bit sketchy because I believe Blubber doesn't have smite on that. So his team is probably asking him to create time for them to finish the Nashor. So it's probably a split in communication over there that makes him like puts him under pressure. So his lack of concentration shows up, right?
Yeah.
As you said, he's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde player. He really reminds me of Doran. Sometimes he does some like insane stuff, and other times he just does some dumb things, or he just loses concentration for a moment. In my clip over here, he's playing Renekton against Sniper, and he gets the tempo bot side, gets the wave pushed in. Sniper has something to deal with over there, so he gets first move. He gets into a good position there, camping inside of the vision.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he also pink wards for himself to double check if it's warded. I don't fully remember. But this position is very good. He's very patient. He knows that he doesn't have anything to do in bot lane for a couple more seconds, right? His team is fishing for something. And now I see this and I'm like super happy. This on my screen looks like a one team fight, right?
Yes.
Renekton is jumping in. Quid should be dead. Ayla is getting CC'd so he cannot peel. Tomo potentially being dead. There's a LeBlanc on the flank and there's not enough vision to spot her. Maokai is in Africa Freaks right now. He's not in LCS, as you guys can see, right? The problem is we went from a very, very, very good flank and map position to this, where we just get
in
the like
yeah
the ability usage over here is very, very bad. His focus is bad and he doesn't realize, like, he cannot see this fight and how it will go ahead of time. Because here there's a free mid laner here for the taking, right? And then his team can follow up. However, he tries to go for something complicated, skip through Rel and possibly go for the Ziggs, right? That doesn't work. He doesn't have flash, so it looks very, very bad. A team fight that should be won ends up looking like this, but if you show the team fight to anyone in exactly this position when Renekton is mid jump,
that's C9 win.
right? So here, I think all the bookies would give you good odds for Cloud9 here, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that's one thing on Thanatos.
Yeah, I actually going through the VODs, I went through a Renekton VOD of his, and I thought it was really poor, which somewhat surprised me. Just with how popular Renekton is over in LCK.
I mean, he's not the best at the champ, but he's not terrible either.
Yeah, I just ended up having a much higher opinion of his Kasance than his Renekton when I was going back through the tape. The popular handshake, yeah.
I would agree with that overall. It's kind of interesting though, because I guess it makes sense since the Renekton has to be played a lot more aggressive while the Kasante can just wait and do stuff, right? So it's technically Renekton is an easier champion. Kasante is easier to pull off at the highest level, in my opinion. Because the Renekton has a lot more aggressive plays to do in the early game, right? But here, again, on the Renekton, he's known as a very good mechanical player. I've heard the LCS players praise his spacing, especially on Gnar, right?
Yep.
Let's see what he does over here. There's a fight that's losing, but he realizes that there's not enough threat to kill him here. He knows the abilities are down, so he's going to go for a fancy play. He gets Sven on the end. Again, his mechanics here, very, very good. He gets a good angle, kicks everyone out, and then he turns a losing fight into 2 free kills for his team by himself, right? And the team can end up clearing this up. The cleanup crew in Berserker is there, and then they can go play the map, secure a Nashor, and all of this is based on what Thanatos did. So props to him.
That's really nice. That was really nice.
Here, the fight continues. They end up taking the Nashor, right? The problem we have is that he loses track of the Orianna ball, right? Here, there's an Orianna ball. What happens? The 2 carries walk into it. They get double killed.
Yeah.
This is not something that should happen at this level of play. but with all the variables that happen on stage, all the communication, noise, and all those things, it can sometimes happen, right? But I would expect better gameplay. Like, at least someone from this team has to mention that Oriana Ball is possibly, like, if you look at it in a vacuum, it's their fault, right? But the team could also see it, because Berserker, for example, doesn't have a job in this exact moment. So he could be like, oh, watch out, right?
Yeah.
There are some coaches and people that would believe you. Everyone has to know what to do, and you shouldn't use communication in order to improve your team. I'm not of that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for me, a lot of the fights that he takes are similar, and he's doing a generally good job, right? There's just the problem that he has a bit of performance anxiety, I would guess, or lack of concentration, and he sometimes messes up his ability sequences.
Yeah,
Do you have something else, Cubby?
I also didn't rate his ability sequences super high, and I feel like at times, again, for Thanatos, we don't get the intangibles, so I'm not sure if it's a language barrier thing for him, or he's just making the wrong decisions on the Rift, but yeah, for sure, times where I didn't think that he played the map quite as well as he could have, going through some of the tape. That's probably the only thing that we didn't hit on in terms of the few clips. But for Thanatos, you mentioned that LCS players specifically praised his Gnar. The Gnar VOD that I went through for him was one of the higher rated VODs that I gave any player. So yeah, that's really good for Thanatos. But then again, where he pans out in the final scouting review, given that one of the 8 I rated extremely highly, he's a middle of the pack top laner. And that's something where, looking back at the tape and where Thanatos is at, I was expecting to have him be a little bit higher than middle of the pack. So just based on the tape, I don't have him rated quite as highly as I did before coming into this.
Next on the list, we go to the NACL champ himself, Srtty.
Yeah.
The Lane Kingdom Aurora spammer, the range top laner nemesis of North America, as he had his username Srtty versus North America. I think we both have high hopes for him. I really hope to see him in a good light in LCS, and I'm looking forward to it. What do you think about Srtty?
Same here. For me, Srtty is a player where there's nothing else that you can accomplish outside of LTA North to get a spot in LTA North, and what Srtty did between his solo queue accomplishments, hoisting NACL and collegiate trophies here in America. So it felt like it was about time that he got a shot, and excited to see him on Dignitas, as frankly, this is the best prospect that Dignitas has ever gotten their hands on. And the tape showed very favorable for Srtty. All right, when it comes to Srtty, there are times where, whether it's in lane or fights, he does some really good things because his mechanics just enable him to do so. This VOD was a great example. Big playoff game, playing Aatrox into a rather shield-heavy, lower damage team, so has the ability to pop off. Yeah, had a lead in lane. Really nice Verisalt from his teammate Sajed. And Srtty takes this in full stride. Just given where the Verisalt connected, it splits the entire fight. And I really like what Srtty does here with the Killer Instinct to just pop R. Yeah, he misses the first Q, but was able to follow up on this really nicely. And the chase down from here is something that I don't know if a ton of players would see, as that Q is filthy, and then position himself to get the blast cone to get in the backline and really take down the Enchantresses. Srtty was really big in the tape for this game, and yeah, this is a really nice fight from him.
Yeah. He's a very mechanically talented player, so I think we will see that overall in most of the VODs that we're going to have today.
Mm-hmm.
However, his team fighting still has to improve. So we have to hold him accountable for that.
I do have one other clip. One of the things going through the tape with Srtty that I was pleasantly surprised by, actually, was his discipline in terms of playing the map, and also seeing a couple creative moments from him. Usually, Srtty is a very rigid and disciplined player. It's part of why he lanes so well and is mechanically talented. There's a nice moment, though, from him. If you look at the minimap real quick, you're going to see his teammate Chime finds a control ward. And LeBlanc's on mid. Srtty is dropping bot wave to come play for Baron control with his team. Given the time of the game, I think appropriate that he's making this decision. Also beating his opponent top laner, Philip, and getting here. So you're going to see with this control ward being taken out, he's going to skirt by the wall for the vision. LeBlanc's on mid. He drops a control ward. in this brush that's in his inventory to make sure that he's not spotted. And with the Blanc coming to clear out Baron Vision out of turn, actually gets a really big pick for his team. So just Srtty being smart about where he walks on the map was able to create a really nice timer for his team here. And what was a big play?
Yeah. As an idea, when Srtty came into the scene, he was a very lane dominant player, but he really sucked at playing the map. So this was one of the focuses that in EG we had with him, because I was his personal coach for about a year and a bit more after that. So it's really nice for me to see that it's showing up and he's actually doing the things right now, because I believe his map position is probably, and lane assignments are probably some of his best attributes right now. So I'm super proud of this player.
Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised by that with the VODs that we grabbed. And it wasn't just that the fact that he was doing well in lane was helping out with this. It was he was dropping the right waves and making good decisions with his team. So that was really good to see.
Srtty is a player that wants to push the limits, and sometimes he doesn't have the best decision making when it comes to that, because he doesn't take all the variables into account.
I remember this play.
And I believe you were casting this game?
Maybe. Probably, but he was fisting lane in this game and then solo through the lead. Yes, I remember this.
The problem that I have is that he doesn't look like here. I believe it's a moment of tunnel vision because he only sees the engage angle, right? But he doesn't see the position of the members that can actually create problems for his team, right? So let's see how this phases out. He has Q3 on Cassante, drags into Poppy into our team. We're trapped by Jinx, so it will look very bad overall. The Poppy and Nautilus combo have the ability to split his team up away from him, right? He still gets out, gets a kill. I guess it looks good to an extent, but this is not the type of thing you would want to do when you are 5k ahead, because this will give them the opportunity to actually make a play onto your team, right?
Yeah, anything even for them is a win. So, not good.
On a similar team, I believe this is in the same game, right?
Uh-huh.
Here, we have a moment where he loses track of what his teammate is doing. One was going topside for the red, while the other recalled, right? And he sees an angle, which is a decent angle in a vacuum, right? If you only see this. Romer is stepping up quite well to bait, honestly. From their perspective, he's hinting, but possibly he's baiting for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially since they have a bit of information over here, right? Srtty takes the bait, and what happens is that he gets nearly killed for this thing, but Cassante is a very tanky champ, 3500 HP, 200 armor, 200 MR. JK, it's probably 500 at this point, right? With how it looked and all the damage reduction that he has in his kit. But this is the kind of mistake that can cost you a game at a higher level of play. On another note, right, I want to praise him because he's one of the few top laners in North America that's actually going for super creative plays. I believe this comes from the fact that he was an understudy of Bwipo, who is a similar guy in this aspect, right? Over here we see Srtty sneaking in exactly on the side of vision. He knows about this ping, but he gets in by dodging this vision over here, right? Because I believe the vision is something like this.
Yep.
Sadly, we cannot see it properly on this YouTube VOD, but from how the enemy team plays, they don't know about him being there. So he gets an angle where he can get rid of their mid laner and then take over the map with his team, because this will be a retake angle for them. It doesn't go super well, but they still get a good trade over here.
Yeah,
right? So that's
the timing of that too. Like his jungler was dead, so it was a 4v5 at the start of it. So by doing this, preventing a grub take, trying to play defense with it, and the fact that it was close. If Bradley plays this better, I think that they get a second kill. But I actually really like this angle, and it was mechanically played correctly.
Yeah. Going back on the mechanics side, I believe this was one of the more impressive mechanical plays.
Yeah,
I really love this top chat replay. Hopefully YouTube fixes that at some point. Anyway, going back to the topic, his own weak side kind of here. He's getting chased by the entire team of TLC. They're also TPing to get him. He's not using his spells early on because he can tank a lot of damage with Cassante before he goes under 50% HP, right? And then one thing that we need to look at, he's actively looking to turn this into a play because he knows that most of these guys no longer have cooldowns because they used them earlier. So what he does is he flashes forward, he goes into an angle where he actually gets two of the players of TLC, kidnaps one. Instead of kidnapping into tower, as most people would do, if you see, actually he doesn't click here, but he kidnaps them into a position where he can actually join the extended fight, which makes it an even better angle, right?
Yep.
And then they just end up dying. This was super well played, and this is the kind of firepower that I'm looking for in a top lane.
Yeah, this guy's Cassante is really, really good. So I'm glad that we got not just the negative clips from Srtty's Cassante. Yeah, anything else you want to go over? I know for me, going over the tape, his laning was not quite as good as I remembered. I did try and grab stronger NACL opponents for him, as I know that not every top laner was up to par with his level. But I was really impressed with his map play that you highlighted. It was much, much, much better than I thought when I was than I remember pretty much. So that was a really good sign for me with Srtty.
Yeah. I think his laning was overall good, but honestly, watching FlyC, like this variation of FlyC was a bit dysfunctional.
Yeah.
So he couldn't push his leads as much as he would want because the jungle pressure would be needed in other places to like compensate more or less, right? One last thing that I want to highlight about Srtty is that similarly to Jojopian, he is developing into a shot caller, and this kind of play is what shows you that, because if you look at the clicks of his AD carry, he's not the one making this call, and the pings overall that are coming on the map are not coming from Smolder, right? So this is Srtty deciding to drop a wave top lane in order to put an AD carry that's in a bad situation back into the game. They know the conditions of Xayah not having ult, so they end up doing this, and the extra thing is that this gives them very, very good lane assignments because Smolder can also TP here, catch this up, and then they can play the map from this better position overall because Smolder is no longer locked against a bully. So, very, very happy to see that from him.
Yeah, Srtty emerging to be a bit of a playmaker in NACL, so that continues in LTA North. Overall, player that we rated pretty highly, given the weight that we had the mechanical score and the fact that Srtty very consistently is doing very well in that category. Good sign to see how he transitions into the next level.
Yeah, my expectations is that he will come in as a top 5 top laner and potentially go into like top 2.
Yeah,
as the year goes by.
I think in terms of expectations, I expect Srtty to be very good in lane. I do think that Srtty will catch flack for team fight errors that I just expect him to make, or games where if he is taken out of the game, isn't able to play his way back in quite as well, just what you expect out of rookie mistakes. I think that given the pedigree that I think fans might have more of a negative sentiment over him, but honestly, going through the tape, I gained more faith in him because of how many more little things I realized that he was doing well. So, frankly, the tape helped me be more confident in Srtty starting in LTA North this upcoming year. All right, folks, up next is Castle. Frankly, saw some moments of good mechanics from Castle, but was not consistent at all over the tape that we went game to game or within the same game. That said, do want to highlight a couple of good moments as Castle. I thought his Cassante was really solid, actually. This is a really, really strong endgame team fight that Castle has against Dignitas. Was one of the few games that IMT was able to win. But you can see doing a nice job of at least keeping the smite out and then keeping himself somewhat in the fight. We do have a base race scenario, but Castle straight up in the back half of this VOD. You can see Sven gets a little bit too close, save this ult, gets the ult down, and is actually able to find the 1v2, just showing some really nice patience. I felt like throughout the entirety of the fight, he was doing his job. And in this game, for me, this was his best game of the split. For sure, the best game that we went over in the tape is Razvan I know that you picked up a couple decent moments from this as well.
Honestly, while we're still on this one, my highlight was how he played the laning phase, because generally, if you watch players play this laning phase, they lose about 2-3 plates, potentially 1 kill, and a lot of farm to Renekton. At the same time, I don't think Licorice played it to the best of his ability, but still props to Castle for playing it well and punishing the mistakes. Right?
Yeah.
His
So
PS is overall healthy. Go ahead.
when
Sorry.
when you go D-Blade as Renekton in this lane, I think you really have to base on 3. Licorice did not do that. And so he just kind of got trapped and in the end out-sustained and outplayed, which was pretty tough in this lane.
I think the base depends on the jungle proximity from both teams.
Yep.
So it depends, because you can go for longer if you are willing to put resources there, right? But what I really appreciate from Castle is that he knows that his timer to kill Renekton is actually the level 6, and this is what he's looking for. He took the TP exactly when you need to, right? He's here at like the best conditions you can get, and he wants to stop the Renekton level 6 crash, right? The Renekton looks to engage onto him and get his crash, right? Wrong, because apparently Cassante is the one bullying. Sadly, we don't have the Ruffle file, so we cannot see it properly, right?
I believe there's a
Cassante gets in.
replay if you keep on going through this one. We might be able to get the look from the replay.
It's potentially there is one, right?
Yeah.
But I want to highlight the moment that he actually takes this all in. He does it well. He spaces it well. He doesn't give Renekton any chance to do something here, right? If the Renekton was like more aware of what can happen, this wave would be pushed with the R, so the Renekton would be the one forcing this fight. Let's see if there is a replay of that. Yes, we have a replay, so let's see it in its entire splendor.
Yeah, really nice
He goes
reaction.
in for the right. Yeah, good reaction time, good usage of the minion. Licorice loses track of the conditions for a moment. Then spacing back, that little click is quite good, so Renekton cannot do anything. He uses his body to position the next Q, the Q3. Here by spacing back, now Renekton has no group angle. Like, if he goes that way or that way, he's getting hit also that way. So overall, very well played by him in this video.
Yeah, I will say that I thought Castle had a better spring than Summer. Looking back, so I know at spring he had more highlight moments or moments that jumped off the page for me. Not really in the tape this time around. We had some consistency issues from Castle. This VOD I've got up was one of them. He got solo killed in this off a really poor hop into impact, just not playing the lane well, not respecting where the enemy jungler can be. And then this time around, he's going to take the Rift Herald in for a little joyride that your team cannot be even close on following up upon, given that Mask is bot, and that means a one-way trip into a 5v4 where the enemy team has 2 angles to pincer. And that's the kind of stuff where I say IMT as a squad had issues, but Castle was not was a part of those for sure at some points.
Talking from like experience and scouting a lot of players, it's very, very hard to be a top laner in a losing team. To spoil our scouting a bit, he's the player with the lowest concentration scores in the LCS, and he's not being helped by the overall state that his team was in when he came in the first part of the year from Korea. As you said, he was a lot better as a player, and possibly the losing, like the constant losing that they had as a team, all the changes within their coaching structure, management, and whatever else happened there probably didn't help him either. So I'm excited to see him for another year. I want to cut him some slack. He should have done better, right? But let's see. I really want to be proved wrong on him.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he will become a great player, but I think he can become a good player. Hopefully he proves me wrong and he becomes a great player, right?
Yeah, I mean, he had flashy moments. Again, it was, for me, the spring really warranted me being excited to have Castle back in LCS. Summer performance, not so much. I've heard that behind the scenes, he's great to have in a team environment too. Like, just really good, easygoing guy that really friendly to everyone, which brings me some hope for Disguise. It's going to be a team that I think a lot of fans will be interested in. Hopefully Castle can be a big part of that.
Okay, guys, so the moment we all were waiting for, the guy that you either love or hate. Now we're going to have a look at white Bwipo or not so white Bwipo. Let's see, because the thing about this guy is that sometimes he will make the game winning plays, sometimes he will make the game losing plays. If it's me as a coach, I have to choose a top laner, I would always take Bwipo over anyone that plays passively and it's just there, you know? Because at the end of the day, Bwipo will, out of 10 games, Bwipo will win you probably 7 games, right? 4 of them will be because of him playing very aggressively and well. Out of the 3 losses that you get in those 10 games, probably 2 of them or even all 3 of them might be his fault, or it can look that it's his fault, right? But he will always give you net positives compared to most other top laners, right? At a level besides like under Worlds. And he went to Worlds, his team did an insane impressions, and I'm super proud of all of them. To start off, we will start with his creativity, especially in laning phase. In this game against Gen.G, who was at the time the best team in the world, even though T1 ended up winning the championship, overall the year was in favor of Gen.G. They had more wins across the board. They had a better showing in LCK. They had a bit of a hiccup at Worlds, but happens, right?
Yeah.
I believe their macro gameplay was one of the best in the world, so FlyQuest being able to match that was insane, right? Okay, let's look at the laning phase over here. We're looking at top lane. Again, on the map, Bwipo plays the first wave quite aggressively, second wave as well. Then we go to third wave. Third wave is crashed. What does Bwipo do? Go behind the Renekton, set up a proxy. He sees in this moment that his Skarner is not bot side. He's not playing to like cover his bot laners, right? So the play he does here is magnificent. He's going for the proxy to create as much tempo as possible on the map. Once the proxy is done, what does he do? He TPs in order to save his bot side. Because he does this can be a make or break moment. If his bot lane dies against FaZe and Legends, this is probably over, depending on if Quad and him can solo carry, right? The other impressive thing is that he knows from the matchup that Urgot will never struggle against Renekton. If he does this kind of thing, he will lose a couple of CS here and there. Maybe he won't be as strong inside lane later in the game. But Renekton will never be a threat that takes turrets in his face just because of the Urgot champion in this matchup, right? So what he does is he TPs, he forces them out, then forces summoner spells off them, and he continues to chase forward. He goes in, and then he tells his team that they have to play for this. His spacing here is immaculate. They end up being on the same page, and these are 2 kills for Masu. This here is the game-winning play. You give your rookie bot lane kills against one of the best bot laners in the world, right?
Yeah.
From that, Renekton doesn't get too far ahead. We have a replay, but then Bwipo gets to lane, and as I said, there's no threat to him. If we go further in this game, just skipping a bit, Renekton is ahead in CS and stuff, but Renekton will never be able to fully push Urgot out of the lane in a side lane.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one insane thing about Bwipo. Another good thing about him... Oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to add, like, he burns his flash in that play, right? And it was played really well. Shout out to Busio, had a nice assist. But, like, even with him dying with his flash being down, which Gen.G were able to punish later on, it's still so worth it just thinking about allocation of resources. And this is where I love Bwipo, and I'm very much on your page with, like, I would take him on my team. Is he a player that is going to play aggro for better or worse? Yes, but the intangibles and the brains that he brings, like, I see a lot of the method to his madness with a lot of his picks in his play, which is why I'm a really big fan of him.
Yeah. To counteract the good point that I made earlier, we will go to the next bot.
Yep.
Over here, we have a situation where the bot lane is pushing for FlyQuest, right? They're not on a very big timer. There are 2 objectives on either side of the mid lane. They're taking mid lane control because they have a better comp at doing that, right? Over here, they're done with the mid lane wave, right? So they can select where to go. But Bwipo goes for an engage. In my opinion, as a professional coach, this engage is not needed here because of the variables that we see, right? If he gets this engage, best case scenario, he gets it on Chovy, one of the best mid laners in the world at the time, who has Sylas E up, Flash, Zonia, Rocket Bird. 4 things that he can use to dodge this potential engage by an Urgot. That's kind of like easy to see, right? Even if it's a flash engage.
Yep.
What happens is that he forces this engage, it goes on Sejuani, then Skarner ult on Sylas. This will look very, very bad for FlyQuest.
Yeah.
Why I'm saying this is that FlyQuest, if we look at the gold, if YouTube isn't trolling me, 7k gold ahead for FlyQuest with a comp that doesn't mind if those guys engage into them, right?
Right.
They're going to engage into a Brom, and this fight goes, I guess, decent, but they like Gen.G should never be in a situation when 7k gold behind where they are the ones getting this Drake. They're forcing FlyQuest to recall. This is the kind of moment that Bwipo can create as well, while being overly aggressive instead of waiting one extra timer and seeing what happens, using that wave that they had before. So over here, using it as a retake wave, because they can use this since Gen.G will be preoccupied to retake the vision in either side, right? Or they can look to force an engage in a choke over here, which wouldn't be that bad for them either. They can look for Rakan to get into a flanking position, because right now they're playing front to front against the Brom.
Yep.
Again, not ideal, right? Their comp is good for front to front. They have 2 AD carries, but when I'm 7k gold ahead, I'm the one that chooses the ground where the fight happens. And this is not necessarily where I want it to happen, you know? Because I can create opportunities where someone gets on a flank, right?
Yeah, 100% agree. The shout out to Chovy, who had a really insane fight. The RE buffer was pretty cool as well. So
yeah. One of the things about Bwipo is that mechanically, I don't believe he's up there at the top of the world when it comes to reaction time, right? What makes him good is his experience and his ability usage. If you see Bwipo, generally he will always try to like sync abilities. There's a concept that we call ability match, right? So whenever something is thrown at him, he has something else being thrown, you know? So this is very good by Bwipo. And over here, we can see that his spacing is still on a very good level. Generally, this is something that he does in all of the VODs that I've watched. And especially with his kind of juggernauty champs, this is very, very important, because these champs are kind of big in mass, so they're very easy to CC. And they need to like do stuff while they're CC'd. And you can only do that by queuing up your abilities. And he's very, very good at that.
Yeah, I didn't grab clips from his Scion game that he played at Worlds, but I think that game was a really good example of him, like, not just using brains over brawn, because obviously with Scion you get a lot of timers that you can use to punish, but also his positioning within those fights is actually really, really, really solid. So, yeah, good to see.
Yep.
Yeah, most of the mechanics and like rankings I was getting Bwipo, I think not all the VODs I had from him were the best in that category, but he was still scoring decently well. But he was scoring really, really well when it comes to how he plays the map, the tempo, like the game-winning plays. I mean, the Urgot TP pretty much won them that game. And I have another pull from really solid play that he had into TL. This was in playoffs. I believe it was the first time that these two teams met, or it was in finals. But in this moment that I have pulled, you can see here, Bwipo on the Renekton. He's 0-3. He got solo killed, had a couple of oopsies in lane, but still as Renekton, he's able to get push. And do want to credit Inspired as well, who has a really nice bait. APA takes a play that he shouldn't be taking. And because Bwipo has the timer, I mean, just the reaction to the TP and the reaction that Inspired has, APA burning the jump, not having flash, and then how Bwipo plays this fight out. His Renekton, for me, was elite. He really earned all of the Renekton bans that we saw from Bwipo. Like, his ability to play this champion, he plays this one really well. It fits his style. And for me, Bwipo's TPs are consistently really, really, really solid. Not just using them to have flanks and angles like this, but also instances where he will just take fights where his health bar goes down and then he TPs back into the fight before an objective to get advantages for his team. That's a play pattern that I just don't see enough from top laners that I see Bwipo like really be able to see, which I love.
Yep. this is one of the best things about him, as you said. On his mechanics, like he's kind of weird because for me, he's scored between 6 and 10, which is kind of weird. Generally, players are 1, 2 ratings apart. So actually just 1 rating, but 0.5s apart. Like 7 to 8, right? Bwipo is 6 to 9, 50, 10.
Yeah.
Which is very, very interesting because he has moments when he's insane mechanically, and he has moments where he looks like your average diamond player when it comes to reaction time, right?
This was a lane that we didn't love the way he played. Shout out to Razvan. I'm going to talk through this one, but he definitely helped me with this as well, being the top lane expert. But Bwipo, so in this matchup, Olaf into Renekton, Olaf scales really well into this matchup. And your first few levels are really good, so you can see that he got the wave in. That said, his CS is a little low. We didn't get to see this full lane, but inferring Doran started E, it looked like he didn't hit all of his Qs in lane if you're Bwipo. And what ends up happening here, what we were bummed about, is that Bwipo, like, he's going to be lower resources. What ends up happening is that he gets dove as we go through this VOD. And, like, here, you can kind of see where he's at. He's down a pot, has biscuits, but Doran's full HP. We felt like he needed to thin this wave. Or we talked about recalling because his CS wasn't the best in the first few waves. We didn't know if he was able to pick up a Ruby Crystal or something like that, or like a Cole to come back and just brawl with Renekton. That probably wasn't the option, but he doesn't do anything to really fight through this wave. Doran keeps his Fury full, and it just ends up being a really free dive for Peanut and Doran. And yeah, you can see, like, I mean, maybe if Bwipo has a Ruby Crystal throughout this, if he was able to farm the first few waves better or get back, sacrificing some golden XP to survive this, that's good. But overall, he decides to stay for the resources. Can't blame him too much, being Olaf. And yeah, this ended up being a tricky game. He ends up bouncing back really well in this game because this is the Nunu game where they won. And you can see he has a pretty insane angle later on where he plays this fight extraordinarily well. Just understanding the angle that he can take and the support that he has from this Nunu. I mean, this is just fantastic from Bwipo. I thought the Olaf was a fantastic pick in this draft. You can get it through the lane matchup, and you make Yasuo and Zyra feel terrible. Ezreal's not enough damage to get through you. I thought it was a great pick in draft. So even in a game where Bwipo didn't start playing the game too well, was dove multiple times, you can see later on, was able to have a really, really strong impact. And this is like kind of the cerebral soft skills that I feel like Bwipo brings to the table with his aggression. Just the knowledge that, hey, this is a pick I can play, and it's really good in this game. Like, I think Olaf into this draft is just, like, it makes Yasuo feel so terrible later on. And we really saw that, and it was one of the reasons that FlyQuest was able to pick up the win in this game.
Don't forget the Poppy, though. Poppy was picked to, like, fully counter and engage comp, and Olaf is probably one of the few champions in the game that can actually run down through a Poppy W, right?
Oh, I mean, Olaf is just Thanos in this draft. Like, Ezreal can't kill it. Poppy can't move it. Yasuo can only go one way. Zyra, you get through.
He has Enchanter kind of in Nunu.
Yep.
Nunu builds supportive. So, and he can also follow up easily and CC people for him. So,
and the lane matchup survivable. Like, it was a fantastic pick this game. So, that's a lot of the good stuff we like from Bwipo.
Yeah. One last vote on my end is that I want to talk about something that I've talked to with Inspired, and we kind of have the same opinion about top lane in the game. There are certain top laners that want to get involved, and there are other top laners that just stay on their island and they farm well, right? And then they become a win condition after like 15, 20, 25 minutes, depending on the matchups, right? With Bwipo, it was always different. This guy gets involved from the first moment he can, right? We had that in game 1. And I want to end it on something similar. He crashes in Ornn and then goes for the proxy, but when the proxy doesn't happen, he sees his mid lane is in trouble. So he's there to join his mid lane on the play. He's here like shadowing for the mid lane, covering this play. And because of him, they end up like turning around this play and getting a kill in a situation where his mid laner should be forced out by 2 people, right? If he was either proxying here or recalling for a Ruby Crystal or Cool or whatever, right? But he gets involved, he realizes top lane doesn't have the biggest impact in the early game, but as long as he can still be an asset later in the game, he gives up these moments. And it's very, very important to know what you can give up on top lane. It's probably the most underrated skill and one of the best skills you can have as a top lane.
Yeah, get to see that here domestically, and then with the Urgot play in the world stage. I thought it was a good year for Bwipo overall. Obviously, any Bwipo you're
Yeah.
going to have some ups and downs, but we're both on the same page where we take him on a team. I love his mind for the game, and I think that he does have a really good mindset when it comes to this, like what it takes to be good, which I
I
will
want to
always take.
contradict you a bit on that. I don't think it was a good year for Bwipo. I think it was a exceptional end of the year, but the year as a whole, he looked very lackluster.
That
If we look
yeah,
at VODs over a longer period of time with spring and early summer involved,
I thought
he wasn't that great,
I thought spring was
right?
good. Summer regular season was not good, but come playoffs he leveled up, and come like when it push came to shove, he did perform.
Yeah.
So I will give him that too. That's important.
Playoffs and Worlds, he was immaculate. So
Yeah.
really big respect to the guy for that.
Yeah, same here.
Uh,
Anything else
if-
you want to talk about when it comes to Bwipo?
Generally, why we do this is to give some good advice to the players at the end, right? So my advice to Bwipo is never change your way of playing, but at the same time try to calculate your aggression slightly better, because you will get in moments where you can lose less games for your team, you know? Like I talked about that 7-3 split of win-loss. I think Bwipo can push it to an 8-2 because he is a world-class player if his confidence is where it should be, right? And if his team is on the same page. And he has a couple of rookies that he's pushing towards his playstyle, along with Inspired, who has a very similar playstyle, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see how this team can develop even further, because I think they will be like even better next year if they keep on improving, right?
All right, folks, next up on the tape, we got Licorice as he finds himself in a new home with a new squad joining LTA North in LYON Gaming this upcoming split. Overall, for Licorice, we thought that he showed really good teamfight presence at times, but didn't showcase the same mechanics that I'm used to seeing from him, especially with his Golden Guardians run. Was coming off of an off split. Definitely something we're going to look to see level up in the upcoming year, but do want to dive into some of the good moments we saw from him. First up being... this is earlier on in the season, something that he ended up using to pretty good success and what ended up being a win for Dignitas in this game. Licorice, his tank play is really solid. His Poppy has always been a good pick for him, and love to see some of the soft skills, some of the things that Licorice just does really well. Always knows his job in team fights, and in this instance, using Fog Vision really, really well. You can even see Impact was popping the sweepers. He's pop the sweeper. He's spacing this to get around everything. Ends up finding a killing angle for his team in a game where they're ahead. And this engage is really, really, really strong and was set up by Licorice just using the map really well. So love to see these moments from Licorice and this kind of stuff when going through the tape that he did really consistently well.
Yeah, makes sense. Over here I have very similar clips about Licorice. Like generally his fog usage and team fighting is one of the best ones that we can find in the LCS, now LTAN, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's probably going to delight a lot of the South American fans, or Central American and South American fans, because I know they have a lot of both, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I want to highlight about him is his fog usage. In teamfights, he's generally trying to emulate what T1 wants their top laners to do, which is to never be with their team, right? Either their top laner or the other flanker in the game. So they're never there with the team, and they're playing as a sole unit that always looks for a flank. And he's a very, very patient player. That was his strength all his career. And now he's very, very experienced. So he can find his angles even better. Look at him. He's using this Fog of War perfectly. No one sees him. And instead of being here and having to burn an ability, he like W to get over, right? He can be here and just burn his E, and then use his W, which is very, very important to extend the fights. Let's see how it goes. He's still waiting. Then the Nocturne pops the ult. They're engaging, and then he gets into the backline. Nasus and Wukong in your backline. This is very, very, very sad for you as a team if that happens. They end up clearing this fight, and you can see instantly he knows what the next play is. You will see a lot of players oinking here, clicking left, right, center, going bot lane, going mid lane, but he TP stop. He knows, yo, that's my end. I'm taking my angle here, and I'm pushing for my end. And bam, Dignitas win, right?
Castle put Licorice on a bit of a highlight reel this game, but even being behind later on in the fight, Licorice still finds ways to do his job. I thought he played this fight really well. Again, the sole unit that you were describing takes the angle separate from his team. IMT does not respect this, and he just absolutely ruins the backline. Did burn his E and flash to interrupt him F-ult, but had enough damage in the tank to force Tactical out of the fight. And then just buying space here. Really like how he clicked up because it brought Mask, Oleg, Tactical, brought everyone up towards him. So really appreciate the use of his health bar to create space for the rest of his team. Ended up being really, really solid in this fight later on for Dig.
Again, I want to show you some team-fighting prowess as well as his patience because I believe it's his greatest strength, right?
Yeah.
And we need to emphasize that a lot. He gets behind the enemy lines here against 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves is a team full of rookies, a couple of experienced players here and there, right? But most of them are young, besides River. So they sometimes get distracted, right? He gets behind them and look at this angle. Just look at this angle. It's beautiful, right? And you see this over and over and over again. This is a pattern from this player that shows and shows and shows. NRG versus Dignitas. There's a fight happening mid lane. He doesn't TP. He knows he doesn't have to TP here. It's not his job. He's on split push duty with Cassandra, right? We can see him here taking over this tower. His teammates are posturing aggressively. This is very, very good from them, right? Because you don't want to posture defensively because you want to buy time. And now, once he feels the danger, this is when he TPs, right? He doesn't instantly TP. He creates the angle there and comes at the right moment. You could say that maybe it could have been 1 second earlier or later. The thing is, I want my top laners to assess the situation, right? Look when they're needed and not instantly press that button and be there just in case. Because if you do that against the Asian teams, they're going to punish you. And this guy is a big game player. Against the teams at Worlds, MSI, whatever, he always had good performances, right? I want to end up on a bad note because
I got a positive. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he's a veteran. I don't need to create a praise sandwich for him, right?
Yep.
I praised him enough. Now there's a point that he has to improve. As we mentioned earlier, his ability usage and mechanics are not where they should be compared to what he got us used to in the earlier years, right? So over here, we have a situation when there's a fight happening on against his team, right? He has the opportunity to smurf this play out if he knows about the WR Poppy mechanic that hides the first half of your R animation, right? It's something he doesn't, so he does the most obvious R right here, and he ends up kicking the support. The support just used most of his kit out, right?
Yep.
Now, I kicked the support out, but what did I do? I could have given my team a clean win here as a Poppy, not this contested thing that can happen.
Yeah.
He still ends up playing it properly, but this could have been a lot better if he was on point with his ability usage and mechanics. Because in angles like this, a skill shot leaves from your champion. So it doesn't matter it matters where it lands, but it also matters where it comes from,
Yeah.
If he's looking to create angles, he might be able to get a better ult here and fully get the right targets out.
Even with the Malachi R already being out, you could argue that if he doesn't charge this and NRG baits in any further, then he can actually get a flash, wallbang into FBI or, threaten the R just to hold it. I think charging it at the start was a little bit of a weird decision. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's likely.
Yeah.
If I was him and I wanted to play this out, over here I would charge my R with W to hide the animation, get inside of here, and then look to kick 3 people out. And that clears my thing. And then I have this ended by a couple of players on my team. I can distribute my resource topside, and I can have someone taking over mid. And that's like a clean objective with the waves being cleared out, and that sets me up for the next one as well, if I need to, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
We will still have a lot of the important ultimates, and then we will just have a trade of Maokai ult for Poppy ult, and I think that trade is in Poppy's favor at this state of the game, and with how important the other ults in his team are, right?
I like the fact you set up he's a big game player. Licorice has never been someone that's shied away from a scenario. This is game 5 against NRG. Ends up being a tragic team fight for NRG, as this was the Kendall ult overlaps with the Bard ult. I think a lot of people are going to focus on that. That said, I thought Licorice on a champion that I don't really know him for. I think Licorice is best on tanks and champs that take up space, but Rumble really strong on this patch in this meta. Played the Rumble really well in this game, as you're going to see here. Yeah, a little unlucky here for NRG with the engage. However, if you look at the fight for Licorice, yes, he ends up getting Bard ulted, but the back half of this fight and how he takes up space is fantastic. As from here, Licorice has a really good understanding of what's going on. It's a 4v5 scenario, and yeah, the flash forward, the GA to make sure that he's on both squishies with the overheat. Even the harpoon afterwards, yes, he goes down, but that secures the kill on FBI. Just fantastic, and Thanatos did end up winning this game in Game 5. So really, really, really big from Licorice.
I mean, my final thoughts would be try to clean up your gameplay when it comes to mechanics. There are countless ways of improving them, even though we believe they're not, and that's the skill level we're at. There are ways of improving your mechanics. Coaches have shown it with a lot of players improving mechanics, right? From the Asian way of like clicking close to your character to learning how to use your skill shots better with starting position versus end position rather than just one. I think he can still be up there and give these rookies a very, like these talented rookies that we have in LCS right now, a very, very hard run for their money, right?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, going through the tape on him, I actually formed a higher opinion just based on how he was playing fights, and I felt like he was a lot closer to being, one of the best top laners that we have in now LTA, the position that Licorice has been in the past, than I did prior going through the tape with how well he played through some of the later game scenarios. So this exercise and going through this actually helped me form a higher opinion of him. So yeah, I did enjoy and appreciate that. All right, folks, next up, we've got Fudge making his return to now LTA North on Shopify Rebellion after taking the summer split off. Frankly, when it comes to Fudge, he is someone that is sometimes too aggressive for his own good, can make some really good angles, but also sometimes shows lapses of judgment. Razvan, what was your diagnosis of going through Fudge on some of his tape?
I'm going to be blunt here. He's not my favorite player. I feel like he regressed a lot in the last 2 years. But I think when he puts in the work, he has glimpses of what can be a great player. When he came into what was the LCS, he was like beating people up so hard,
Yeah.
It's just that in the last 2 years, he didn't have as much impact as I would like him to have. His mechanics got lower and lower. There are allegations that he doesn't play the game that much. I don't want to get into these allegations, right? But the way I see his overall spacing mechanics and ability to judge the game, it seems like I'm watching a player who's talented but doesn't put in the hard work, right?
For me, some VODs were good, some were bad. I definitely took one of the VODs where it was his worst VOD of the split. The last game that C9 got eliminated by TL, like that Olaf game was bad. I don't think it was all his fault. But yeah, it felt like I know he's a top laner that can play to his lane and play with resources, but at times, we see that be good. It's not as consistently good as it used to be, I think is what we can both agree on when it comes to Fudge. So that being said, do you want to start with at least one good moment of tape for Fudge that we saw? I do like seeing some killer instinct from our top laners. This is a fight from Spring where Jojo ends this fight before it starts with a really, really good Pop Blossom, but I really like even with Fudge already using Counter-Strike, I don't think every Jax player would go in to follow this up, but I do think that Fudge shows some really good presence just to know, hey, I'm just going to get in the back line, we're going to take out the two carries, and by taking that angle, Sniper is now doomed as well. Did get Fudge a triple kill, and was a really good start to the game, and I just appreciate the fact that he's willing to go in and follow up there. Did show good killer instinct, and like to see that from Fudge, and this VOD ended up being really strong from him in playoffs in Spring.
Yeah, I mean, with this player, I don't think it's as gloom as you make it seem, right?
Yeah.
One of the strongest things, as you've said, is playing for topside. Him and Blabber had very, very good synergy during their time in Cloud9. Whenever they were in topside, even though it didn't look as clean as it should be, they were still getting what they were there for, right? So we have examples like this one against Sniper. Blabber is doing a very, very good counter gank on a timer when Renekton is somewhat weak, right? Rumble runs Ignite, so he goes for the all-in. Because of this Ignite, they end up playing this one, killing the Rumble on his potential thing, getting his flash, right? Again, on the mechanics side, I don't really like the movement from him and his ability usage in this exact moment. Right?
Yeah, I think he can match our earlier and step up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can do this a lot cleaner, right? He might not even have to flash for this play with how the fight is going, and if he knows the limits of a Renekton as well as the defensive buy, which is in his favor here because it will counter the burst of this champion, right? He can also walk in a bit more to then bait the Rumble to get a W into him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But generally, as I said, those two guys, they get the job done. It doesn't look the prettiest all the time, but it's done, you know? And this is something that will still win you games, right?
Yeah, definitely a hope for Shopify Rebellion this upcoming split if you can find some of that synergy with Contracts, a jungler that I have a really, really high opinion of. And someone that does, I think, play really well towards his laners, so yeah.
On a similar note, we have a matchup against Impact. It's a Jace against Jax, right? Mm-hmm. He played quite well the first few levels as Jace.
Yeah.
He has a good wave stack, right? He hides the Jax E. Now Jax is cooldown less, Blabber is on top lane. They look for this play, they force the flash, they nearly get the kill. As I said, those guys, they make stuff happen, right? Then together, they're forcing this play on TL side, right? And they're there to punish. They're not scared to punish this thing and to go in and bait people. He still has flash, right? Again, extended fight. He cancels his recall even though he doesn't have the conditions. Blabber is strong. They go for this. APA is coming, but they still end up getting a trade here, you know? Fudge is not scared to take a trade, kill the guy, and play when his conditions aren't the best. I would see a lot of people actually get out there because it's not their job, because no mana, no HP, whatever, they want to get a good lane state. Mm-hmm. This guy wanted to sacrifice that to play with his jungle and get something out of a not so great situation, right?
Yeah. No, I for me, like, that is when Fudge is at his best. It's just, my issue is that I didn't feel like Fudge was as locked in from VOD to VOD. I mean, we both went over this VOD, and later on, like, for me, this play, Fudge did end up having an early lead. The early double buffs, he had a really, really nice landing phase, really understands how to play Jason lane, which I appreciate. But here, like, this trade in Impact, this is fine, is able to use Phase Rush to space the Counter-Strike, but after this, his team is all posturing mid. He's showing. He's going to take another Q when Jack's Q'd in and just be in Counter-Strike range and get one shot. And even if Umti's not here, I don't know if he wins that 1v1, but you have to respect the fact that Umti's there when everyone from TL was showing on vision here. You can see C9 has this lit up really well. They see Umti, I believe, here on the control ward. It's close. So like, Umti can't be on this side of the map. Fudge does not respect that, and he goes down. And when you make these kinds of mistakes with leads, that hurts a lot, especially when you're playing a champ like Chase.
Fudge is still an experienced player, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes to team fighting and angles, he still has these in him, right? He gets vision from his team, gets a good flank TP in situations like this. He's in a good angle. He could force a bit more here, maybe, right? If that's the plan, he's waiting for Blabber to engage. They isolate one target. And then, instead of going with his team, he realizes he can still create space. He goes forward. This forces Jensen out, right? This is generally good play from a top laner. He did most of his job here, right?
Yeah.
The fact that they don't end up winning this team fight as hard as they should and they get chased out, it's something. But they hijacked this Drake. JK, they didn't. I guess Bwipo was too wide in this case. But still, you know, I really like to see these aggressive pathings over here. If his ability usage was a bit better, I believe this could have been like way better executed, you know. Because in situations like this, if you have Vi, you don't need match with your E. You can just keep your E for the next phase of the team fight. If the engage happens, right?
Also,
there are multiple things you can do better.
Yeah, you can prep a barrel when Bwipo lands. That's not too bad too. Just to slow him when he gets down, because he ended up getting on JoJo. I don't think JoJo's ult is good by any means, but a Q slow might have prevented Renekton from getting on the Talia here, which is why they lose the fight. So yeah. When it comes to Fudge, I thought that in spring, I didn't know if he was being too vegan because it was his team or not. But this was a game where Fudge got really fed, and I got to see him use tempo really well, which is something that I thought he did really well as a player when he was smashing people in the early seasons and hoisting titles with C9. Here, he's 5-0. He has shove. They see Ari on the wave. You have Lucian Nami, so you always get mid pressure. And this walk from Fudge, like, yeah, it's a kill that ends up going down, but he cuts this wave, which really keeps the tempo up for C9, and he continues the play into pressuring Sniper, and this ends up opening up the Baron in the end. So I don't think every top laner like, actually plays that mid wave and then sticks it out with his team for the fight. C9's winning hard here, but just good to see Fudge with resources really pushing the pedal to the metal and doing his job, and more in this.
Okay, gamers, now it's time to introduce someone who doesn't really need an introduction. The former world champion Impact, and arguably the best top laner that ever played in North America. He's kind of on the old side of League of Legends. I think he's 30 years old, young at this point, depending if you look at Korean age or normal age. Because in Korean age, he's over 30. In our age, he's 29.
True.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about him. Some people say he doesn't have the best mechanics. I scouted him multiple times during my time with EG. When EG wanted to resign him, but sadly it didn't happen. He was like topping the charts for a lot of things, including mechanics, not on the reaction time quota, but on the spacing and prediction quota. This guy is so good at like mind games. He knows what's about to happen. He knows how to like control his champion in nearly every moment in the game. Maybe he's not the greatest when it comes to picking up new champions. Maybe his champion pool, it's a bit weird. That's what people say about him. But I'm very confident that he's going to like pull out some champions. If you give him a couple of months of practice, he can probably play the mechanically complicated things as well.
He was the best Cassante that we had in LCS last year, so I'll give him that. He was stupid good in that champion.
Yeah. Arguably, he was one of the best players. Like, I would, if he wasn't the best, he was like top 3, top 4 players in LCS. So yeah, talking so much about mechanics, let's look at them. Over here, Bwipo has an angle to go for him. Let's see how he plays this out. He doesn't use his abilities, baits this out. He tells his jungle to wait until it's the right moment. The jungle comes in. Look at the micro clicks over here from him. When he's about to get hit, he turns around. Let's look at this. He turns around so he gets his flamethrower in the right position again.
Oh, wow.
One flamethrower on the right position again. Flamethrower in the right position. He plays this champion so well. He flashes at the exact moment to get space. Then look at his spacing over here. He dodges the Bwipo stuff. Again, dodges with the mind game down and then up. And then he sits here, emotes. You have a 29, 30-year-old emoting on you. That says it all. He still stays in range just to make something happen if it's needed. I don't have words, you know? Like, this guy is so good. You don't expect him to make highlight plays. You expect him to be the rock in the top lane. But he's here to, like, do both, right?
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about this guy. This guy's stupid good. It was a treat going over his VODs. It really was. We got more good stuff.
Another example of his mechanics combined with patience. This is more of a ability usage which comes from experience in his case, right? Let's look over here. They're trying to kill Brief. Look at his W timer. Instead of taking a W when he has to, he chains it with the Sejuani. He knows Gnar is not in threat range yet because he's not about to transform. Lets the Sejuani do his job, Syndra, and then he does it at the same time with Syndra, which makes sure this guy doesn't transform. Syndra stun, into his stun, he doesn't transform, he gets him out cleanly, right?
Yeah.
Another thing that I really love about him is that I had the experience to work with him, teach him some stuff, but also learn a shit ton. from him. And one thing that I've learned is that a lot of coaches will tell you the rule that you don't make 2 plays at the same time. In life, same as League of Legends, you can cheat the rules if you know them well enough. You know, like when you're doing taxes, you can do them decently well by yourself. But if you get an accountant, he can find the loopholes in some rules and maybe save you more money, right? That's what Impact can do for your team. And he's one of the few players that's going to boost the ranking of his team by 3 positions by himself, you know? In a situations like this, excuse my poor English, they're making a top lane play. He should be playing safe both sides, but he's not. Look at him. He's posturing aggressively at the same time because he knows he's strong enough to make this happen. He calls for his team to move, right? They have the TP as well. So he's baiting this after that play happened. Bam. They get 2 plays done at the same time. They're very ahead over here, but still, a lot of people would just wait. He's the kind of player that would take a 25 minutes win and win that game in 22 minutes because he makes those decisions and he's very sure they're going to go well. When he shot calls, he doesn't say a lot, but he says yes and no. And I've rarely seen him being wrong about it, right?
Yeah, I also love that in this game, he actually used his T1 skin when they were in an elimination game at Worlds, whereas earlier he was using Renektoy. Or I should say Marins, but still, fun shout out there, as doesn't usually use that, but it was fun to see him bust that one out. Yeah, I mean, Impact is stupid good on the tape. Something that everyone gives Impact credit for is his map play. He's always gotten credit for this. I love this sequence from him going up against Thanatos. He's a little bit behind in this matchup, given it's Renekton and then what he built. So what happens here? His team's trying to get mid. He dropped this wave against Thanatos, who's going to go pick it up. His team's playing cautiously, able to play it out. Cautiously enough for Thanatos, he burns a timer to go hover. His team's hovering the bot side. Thanatos can't do anything. Blabber throws out an engage. Well, it's countered by Core JJ. And then what happens? Impact, after he kills the wave, finds the right TP. Check out this TP in this angle. Just perfect. So yes, Core JJ falls, but everyone's here. Thanatos does not have TP, so this is a good timer. This flash might have been able to position it a little bit better. I think he was trying to get Berserker and just wasn't quite in range for it. So I can't take points away from him in this, but again, the TP and then plays this out with the rest of his team just to make sure they get the tower. Really textbook League. Love how he threatens Counter-Strike 2 just to get JoJo back. Really good stuff from Impact. This is the stuff that he always gets credit for doing well, and good to see him doing it really well on the tape here and this year too. All right, Razvan, I know that you said that Impact's mechanics were, pretty solid, better than Percepted. If he gets points against anything, it's reaction time, not to predict it. This is a really good clip of him predicting what's going to happen and using his reaction time in order to get away from it. So here, what's going on? Getting the double crab, going to be on the top crab. Impact finds himself in a little bit of trouble with the trade. Kiaya, really good spacing from him. Do want to shout that out. So what happens the back half of this? Impact able to get out of this, but guess what? Umti's here. Impact finds a big trade, gets double fury, flashes away though from that bounce, which would have procced another thing of hyper. So that flash ends up saving him. Umti's able to get in here, finds the fear, dips into fog when the fear hits, able to pop the Q, helps get a kill, wave frozen, Kiaya in trouble, gonna match the TP. Really good stuff from Impact and great prediction and good reaction time to fight that one.
I remember in EG, in playoffs, he won us a game by literally camping a bush for 2 minutes. He's a player that has a lot of creativity in his skill set. So in a situation like this, I would see a lot of top laners like giving up this play. What happened earlier is that Skarner is here, forces him out, right? He cannot do anything. So he would take over mid lane, maybe Griff his Syndra or whatever. He probably pressed tab here. He looks at items from Kalista. He's like, this guy is not killing me. He looks at Skarner. This guy is not killing me. I have tabbies and I have spacing help. And I also have a potion. My R up. What do? Do I wait here? No. I TP back there. There's a cannon and I secure my wave, right? I go for an aggressive play because Skarner is too far away. I burn the cleanse, get out, get my experience. I get a bit of punishment, but it doesn't matter. She's not doing any damage to him. So this is what you want to see from your top laner. He salvaged this so well. You know,
Yeah.
they're making a play on both sides. He's not being denied here anything, and he popped a cleanse for a TP. You know, and now you fast forward, he's still able to play. You know, he gets more waves and stuff like that. I really love how this guy plays the game, and I will always use him as an example when I'm teaching my new players how to become the best top laners, right?
Yeah.
Another clip.
Before,
Go ahead.
like, you know, going off of that, I think the biggest compliment that I can give Impact in this is like not even just the fact that he's the highest rated top laner for me, and maybe like this probably the second highest rated player that I've went through so far, to Inspired, who had really good worlds tape. But when it came to the other, yeah, when it came to the other top laners, I made sure to look for VODs of them playing against Impact, just because I know the floor that Impact has is so damn high. Like this, like the amount of bad games this guy has, they really do not exist. And when they do, like again, I think the floor of this guy is just way too high for what he brings game to game. This guy for me is just crazy good. And, like the biggest compliment I give him is I wanted to see the other top laners we're going over play against Impact, because I know 9 times out of 10 Impact's going to give them a really good map. So that's all.
Yeah, I agree with that. His floor is very high, but
yeah,
at the same time, his cap is also very high, right? It's
yeah.
kind of sad
Oh,
to see him
100%.
playing at 80%.
Yeah.
Because he sometimes does that, especially in regular season. In playoffs, he always puts his like foot on the gas pedal. So yeah. Going to the last VOD that I have for him. There are more. I could like spend days talking about this guy. Over here, we have a situation where his team has tempo advantage on the map because Orianna is zoned out, right? I believe they know about this from the earlier situation that happened, because she showed on midwave here. They're taking over River first, right? And Gnar is in bot side. What Impact does is playing aggressively on this timer. A lot of people would just give. He realizes this is a timer for them to fight because they can create man advantage. One of the problems is that he's probably not vocal enough about how fast they have to be on this play, because we can see his team, they stop in a river for what is a pink ward over there. That kind of pink ward is a tempo trap when you want to make a fast play. So they're losing about 1 second there, right? Impact goes forward, he gets TP'd on. This is generally very good. If I look at this play here, I think they won it, right? Syndra is coming soon. All of their spells are on Renekton, right? They're using everything on him. He gets full value from his Terak. He dies, right? But this team should be able to clean this up afterwards, because this guy has no cooldowns. Renata has no cooldowns. Kalista is zoned out. If we have the rest of the team getting on this side, right, with Syndra flashing forward, because Lucian can get here and free hit 2 people with Nami on him, this is a good fight overall for them. And this is what Impact can do, right? To the average viewer, this one would look bad for him because he forces it too early. Which can be true, right? He should be able to adapt based on what he sees from his team, like spending extra seconds to clear that ward. But yeah, this ends up making a very easy game because they should be fighting on this timer. They're 3k ahead. Their comp is like spiking.
Yeah.
Into a bad game and potentially a loss, right? So even one of the best players in the world can make certain hiccups.
Yeah.
But this doesn't take away the fact that he's the best top laner we have in LTAN.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know that I got at least one more clip of him. I love this clip of Impact. I think it showed, like, for me, he was the best Cassante we had in LTA. He was insane in this champion. It wasn't denied from him early enough. This series, this was handshaken a lot between Bwipo and Impact, but I just love this because he sneaks in. He has full info. He's able to sneak in here, and he plays really patiently with Fog. He does show there, but the angle he takes in this fight, Inspired goes for the flash engage. Bwipo's on the pincer. Impact does exactly what his job is in this fight, pushes 2 back, yoinks the Amumu for the kill, so they're able to secure the dragon. And then how does he play it out from there? Preps Q3, hops on, flash, gets quad, unstoppable through. Like, just fantastic mechanics in this fight to pressure everyone. Even the Q on Masu enables them to find the kill in the back half as Umti burns the flash to get him. Q3
Don't
going through
forget the
this.
R press over there. If you go back a bit, that's also quite good. When the burst is about to hit him, he presses his R. So after.
Yeah, it gets him out of the bad spot of the fight instantly.
The second R.
Oh,
that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Like here,
He's got nothing else.
I don't think that expires. He just presses it.
Yeah, it's really good.
When the burst is about to come in, and that makes Cassante a lot tankier, right?
Yeah, like only thing he missed was that Q3, like waiting for the root, and it missed by a pixel. So, but yeah, this fight was just fantastically played by Impact. We saw this from him just consistently in the last year. He was a no-brainer MVP for LTA North. I don't think he exactly had the worlds that he wanted to, but Impact had a great last year, and it's crazy to think this guy's going into what, year 12, year 13, and playing at the level that he is just stupid good. Stupid good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world's opponents that they got were also not easy to deal with, so they had quite an unlucky draw. But I think he was solid overall, and I really wish he will keep going, right? This guy seems to find ways to get better continuously.
Yeah.
And it's impressive to me. And what's most impressive from working with him is that he pushes everyone around him to get better. Are you an analyst? Are you a team manager? Are you a water carrier? Are you a coach? This guy is going to push you to improve, you know? And he's the reason why EG had that insane run. He's the reason why this TL is improving so much, along with Core JJ, who is also an insane mentor, right? Because they have 3 rookie-ish players. Amti is a veteran at this point, but he's not as veteran as the other 2, right? So he can still learn from them.
All right, folks, we've gone through every single top laner. Here's where we ended up between the weights, the scorings that we gave everyone, and the overalls.
Some things we can take out from is that mechanically, Srtty and Impact are probably the best top laners in LCS when it comes to that. Srtty is slightly faster, but his experience is not as high as Impact. Impact's prediction and ability matching is a lot better, right? And he's the one that you want to go towards. There's according to the scouting, there's a big gap between Impact and the next top laner. We use the weight system per role to create some kind of diversity in which abilities are better for who. For example, in certain roles, you can get away with less concentration. In AD carry role, if you get caught, then you probably lost the game for your team. Maybe the top laner can have some leniency in there, right? But for a top laner, it's very important to know your lane matchups and map position and have good mechanics when it comes to spacing. Since it's a bruiser-ish role most of the time, tanks and stuff like that, your ability usage and skill shot accuracy can be on the lower end. In our predictions, Fudge and Castle look like the worst ones. And there are a lot of people in the middle. One thing to add is that besides this scouting, we decided to add a per league extra rating based on where they play, where they played, where the players are coming from. This is how we these league weights are how we decided to look at them. If you are in LCK, LPL, or you go to World's main event, you get +5 points on your overall. If you played LTAN or LCS as is what it's called, or LEC, you get 4 stars, right? And the other leagues give you 3 to 0 stars if you come from amateur, like a couple of players did in the last few years. Not that many, but it's still a possibility, right?
Yep.
So going to the player sheet over here, we will see the final ratings that we have for players.
Hey, Razvan, looking at the final scores for these players, based on the perception going in, was there anything that really surprised you, for better or worse, after we were done with this?
There were a couple of surprises, but at the same time, keep in mind that we used quite a small sample of votes, so I wouldn't use these for professional purposes. This is more of a content piece, because I believe these players, maybe some of them had worse votes than they are. Something that surprised me is that Sniper didn't score as high mechanically as I expected. He scored quite high, but he's still around the Korean tops that are in LTAN, right? Another thing that was very surprising to me was the fact that Srtty's map position was possibly among the best. However, we have to remember he was playing against a lot lower tier opponents in the NACL, right? So with the league system, we kind of deduct some points in that way because he was where he should have been nearly all the time, grouping with his team for vision, going inside lane, pushing his leads, right?
Yeah, that was my surprise too. I will say, I think one positive thing for me is that the VODs we went over for him, it's not like his laning was astronomical. There was a bit of disparity between the NACL top laners. I tried to grab VODs of him where he would have been challenged a little bit more. So the fact that that score wasn't as high as what he is perceived for me, and then his map position and fog usage was actually better, is pretty promising, frankly. Just because I know the tape on Srtty and his laning will be good at the next level. So I have confidence in that. That was definitely a big surprise for me. On top of that, Licorice team fighting. I know that Licorice, it may not show in the score, but my opinion of him was higher after going through this exercise than before. And I think that was a positive for sure.
Yeah. Same over here for Licorice, like his fog usage, which is an underestimated skill for top laners, especially because when people think about fog usage, they're like jungle. When they think about vision, they're like support. But top lane has a lot of things to do with like fog usage, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I first had an opportunity to join LEC, one of my tests was around fog usage, which was surprising to me because I didn't think it was that important. But with the years and experience, I've learned how important it is and how you can create leads through that. And Licorice is doing that insanely well. And that's like the most valuable thing you can look for.
When it comes to League, all these guys are grinding the game out for 10 plus hours a day. Sometimes just hiding some info and not giving everything to your opponent can be super valuable. So makes sense to me. That being said, hopping back into the player rankings, we did talk about League weights. So when you add the weights to their overall, here's where we ended up for all of our players, with Impact topping things out at 92. Up next will be Bwipo at an 82. Srtty at an 81, based on the tape and the weights, predicting that he's going to be the third strongest top laner coming up in his rookie year. Thanatos at 78, Licorice at a 77, Sniper at a 76, Castle at a 74, and Fudge at a 72. Of course, Fudge, it's been a split off, so who knows? Could be better or worse. Is based on the tape we went through in the system that we built. Is this right or wrong? Who knows? But this is definitely a fun exercise to go through. All right, after all that, we decided to add some notes. Obviously, players are going to have some strengths, some weaknesses, and Razvan and I co-wrote these together. Razvan going over the notes. Of course, Impact is the GOAT, but is there anything else that you want to add or stuff that jumped out at you as we wrap up our conversation about top laners?
I mean, one thing I want to add is the fact that having a rating of 70 is very respectable. The way we thought about this is that over 90 puts you at world-class player, right? So there aren't going to be that many 90-plus rated players in the world, right? We see Impact as being one, Bwipo being 82. It happens because Bwipo is a hit or miss player. I think his cap is a lot higher than 82, right? But his floor is a lot lower than 82. So that's why there's that, right? Fudge is at a respectable 72. That puts him bottom of LCS, but it's still the bottom of a tier 4 league, right? We gave 4 stars to this league. Mm-hmm. So that means he's a good player, right? He just has to get better. So one thing that we need to mention is that we believe the players that at certain stages in their development. One is a development player, so a young player that just got in and he has a lot to improve. Emerging is after he got his first top tier competitive concepts, right? Peak, best he can get, and then past prime or underperforming. These are both in the same thing. If a player had a higher high and now it's like then he will be put in that category, right? So we have a lot of players that are developmental players or emerging, about half of them, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm really looking forward to these players actually taking over. We also gave them a potential rating, which can put them at a certain skill cap that we see. This might be wrong, and similar to how EA Sports does it nowadays, there is dynamic potential in real life, right? A player can always become better with hard work and smart work at the same time. than an analyst or a coach or whatever predicts him to be, right?
Yeah, I mean,
With the right
frankly,
motivation and the right support.
yeah, Frank, I mean, it is my job to talk about players and especially prep guys to go to the next level. I love when I'm wrong, when these guys shut me up. So that's always something that I embrace. And this is where we think players are and can be. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. So hope that's the case and hope to see some players hit their peak or, especially like with Licorice or Fudge. Yeah, we've seen them be better in past splits. But, man, I think us and everyone else would love to see these guys get back to where their peaks were because they are people that have hoisted LCS trophies, and we'd love to see them do it for the LTA too.
Yeah. As a call out for viewers, feel free to send us your hot takes, your agreements or disagreements about players on either top lane or mid lane. Spoiling the next episode a bit ahead of time here, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks so much. That's going to wrap up the first episode of the Rift Repair Shop. Razvan, thanks so much for joining us. We really hope that you enjoyed this, learned something when it comes to our insights, and helped elevate your gameplay, maybe even at home or just how you look at the game. A huge thanks to all of you for tuning in. Likes, comments, and subs would help us out a lot, and your support means the world. Of course, feedback, very much appreciated. This is our first episode, so if there's stuff that you like or don't like, be vocal. We're the ones that have our hands on this product, so we can change it. Razvan, before we say goodbye, where can we find you to follow you?
So you can find me mostly on Twitter. My @ will be somewhere present on the screen, right? It's ShadowR04. Twitter or X, as people call it nowadays, and most likely on the YouTube channel of this video. I will try to be active in the comment section if we have people interested, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, follow me everywhere at CubbyXX. Thanks so much again for supporting the first episode, and we hope that you enjoyed your time in the Rift Repair Shop. Now you can hit the road and do whatever you got to do. We'll see you guys for the next one.